This talk, so you introduced me, so I'll skip that. I'm from Rotterdam, the Netherlands. And this is a small story, not about the Netherlands, but actually about Flanders. We've got quite a few customers in Belgium as well. And Flanders is the Dutch or Flemish-speaking part of Belgium. So this is a small story about a minimum viable product. And for a change, we will begin with the end in mind. And we will do prototyping before the project, which is something I got from a previous talk. You might consider this also as a no project thingy. So what's going on? We've been providing long-term technical and Plone upgrade and implementation support to one of the environment agencies in Flanders. It's the Flanders Environment Agency, or as I know it in Dutch, it's called the VMM, the Vlaamse Milieumaatschappij. And this is the text from their website, and they're primarily focused on water and air, and everything from water and air, for paying your taxes to preventing rats from digging under Dijks. It's what they do, and they're not the highest level department in Flanders. They're more like an executive agency. So, what's the thing in Flanders? Flanders, just like the Netherlands, is a delta area, so we've got quite a few rivers going through and ending up in the North Sea. And this executive branch of government also has a number of coordination committees. And one of them is, for which they all run Plone sites, is the Coordination Committee on Integrated Water Policy. And I really had to look that up because I've been knowing it for 10 years or more, like Integraal Waterbeleid. And they're supporting the higher level politicians on water management and making management policies. So what's the problem there? They have to create every 6 years a really comprehensive plan on how they are going to do water management in Flanders. And this is only the top part of Belgium. So every 6 years they have to create a new overall plan, and it's all branches of government, also lower levels, have to work with that. And they've got, and this is rather technical, but they've split up the whole area in 11 water basins. There are 6 groundwater systems. There are 2 large rivers, the Schelde, and I think in English or French they call it the Meuse. And they have to arrange everything for that: droughts, flooding, possible pollution. And it's from a government view, it's a really complicated organizational thing to write such a plan every 6 years. And as I already explained or told you a bit, Belgium is a rather complicated, complicated in organization. They've got 4 area governments. They've got 3 person-oriented communities which deal with personal rights of individual citizens. I didn't know about that one until 6 months ago. There's 1 federal government on top of that. And as you might know, water and air in general don't really care about borders, be it internal borders inside the country or the water flowing in from France or flowing out again to the Netherlands. So it's, as I said, a lot of editing. They have to approve this official plan by Parliament. And it also has to stay publicly available in those 6 years. So the previous plan will end in 2021. So in 2021, they will have to write a new plan. And again, this is just Flanders. I'm from the Netherlands, and I asked them before, what about the French-speaking part? And that's a bit separated in Belgium. So I don't know how they're doing this. This is only for Flanders. So, as often, we have a lot of public and some internal websites at the Flemish and Flanders Environment Agency. Wouldn't it be nice if we could use Plone to support the creation and publication of the next document? So what they have now is they have a lot of manual, would say manual labor, but that's a bit harsh. I mean, it's a lot of office work and a lot of coordination and a lot of meetings to organize and create these plans. Then they put them as PDFs on the website. And one of the questions was, can't we make this a bit more user-friendly? Can't we publish it as web documents? They do have a lot of other modern features like geographical information system, which also supports these plans. Although the small symbols you see there are individual actions, which are in layers. This is all created by the VMM internally. We don't have too much to do with it, except for getting this geographical locat, as they call it, on their public website, which is enough trouble already to get it working with all the JavaScript and internal systems. But they're all managing this internally. I'm only the guy writing an add-on to make this visible. And if you can publish this document on a website instead of a PDF, or instead of actually 10 or 12 PDFs and more background PDFs, wouldn't it be even nicer if we could write the next plans in the public website, but also export it as an official document? Because whatever happens there, whatever they write, it has to be approved by Parliament, and then they do a kind of consulting round, but then it's fixed for the next 6 years. And parliaments normally don't approve websites in total and say, okay, the website is the plan. They want to have a document. And that does ring a few bells. So this question of using Plone, which is a content management system, but then adapting it and extending it to support business processes is something we've had this question for like the 18 years that Plone exists. I mean, there wasn't that much when we started with Plone. I started with Plone like 15 or 16 years ago. And very soon, if you can manage content, and content is an object, and an object has workflow, hey, that's a business process. So we've always been using Plone as primary as CMS, but very often you can insert small web apps. So this is also a question that has been running in the Flanders Environment Agency for a long time, and they have also been professionalizing. So they started, and this is a small intermezzo, they started doing business analysis because they have these internal customers. They have an IT department which helps all the other internal departments with their IT questions. So what they did this time, and also for quite a few other projects for the last 3 or 4 years, they have a small team of business analysts, consultants. They start talking with the internal customers first, write out all the requirements, analyze the scope, and they write a nice plan. So this thing of, can we use Plone to write this huge plan that has to be created every 6 years? I've heard it 5 years ago, 10 years ago as well. And as a citizen of any country, I would think, look, if we could use Plone to help our government a bit with creating these large documents, that would be cool. That would be nice. Why aren't we, in general, why aren't we using more open source in government anyway? So for this part, an internal business analysis was created for this request. And they all did it. I didn't have to do much with it. I got a huge document at the beginning of 2019. And the interesting part, just a short summary, can we collaboratively edit it? And then, of course, any plan you make, it has to be grounded normally in some technical background, environmental background, scientific analysis. Can we separate all the content between core information, which has to go into the final plan to be approved by Parliament, and can we also add background information? So we're going to build a huge document website. Part of it will be distilled and be presented to Parliament, on which they will vote or make amendments or whatever. And on every one of those parts, you would also want to have background information, links to scientific documents and things close to the original text in the final management plan, that people can also in 2025 go back and look at the website and say, oh, for this stanza in the plan, oh, these were the scientific background documents. And now they're just a huge collection of PDFs, which are a bit more difficult to navigate. And of course, the last one was, which triggered for me the alarm bells. Oh, just export it as an official document as well, where only the core sections are present. And we've been here before, right, haven't we? Everybody who has done anything in Plone for more than 5 years with websites, we've always had this requirement to export pages as a PDF. And sometimes it was just a single web page, so you could download it offline and view it offline when you didn't have an internet connection. Or archiving a whole website. And you need a PDF generator for that, and you've got the open source versus commercial part. So, and we've had quite a few plugins and add-ons also in the past. So I think we created, for some customers, Collective Senders PDF. ODWeb created a very nice, large, very comprehensive exporter called EEA PDF. And I've now, I think, missed 5 or 6 others that have also been created by other organizations or service providers. And why I said it rings bells? Well, we, with previous projects for the VMM, we have used EEA PDF. This is called the environmental report, which is now a fully dynamic website, but in the old days, they had to also create a report every year, which also was a huge PDF document. And this website contains hundreds of environmental indicators. There's a scientific team behind it, collecting data, updating the environmental indicators. And this has been also going a very long-standing project, which is a sort of an independent committee below the Flanders Environment Agency, because this has to be neutral and objective, of course. And what happened there internally, we, end of 2016, we got a requirement to migrate the previous version of this website, which was in a complete different technology, to Plone in 1 year with PDF export and dynamic graphics and the whole hierarchy of related indicators, and enough time for all the editors to redo all the content, because they also wanted to rewrite and rescan all the content. So we said, okay, we'll skip the migration, because if you have to touch every word anyway and have to check it, then it doesn't make much sense to move everything into this new website. Oh yeah, and the last one, we thought, okay, this is so difficult, content editors have to work quickly, we'll do the export last. I mean, that we don't have to bother the editors with that. So we did everything else first. They were able to start editing content in August 2017, I think. And we kept it for last. And PDF generation just has a lot of challenges. I'm going to skip over them, because if you've tried this, you will recognize some of these points. Most of the time what you do is you first generate HTML. Plone is sort of in HTML, but not completely. And then you feed it to a PDF generator, and the PDF generator, if it's open source, crashes after 500 pages. If it doesn't lock up your Z server, your complete Zope server, because if a page has 5 images, then the PDF generator will start to download those images and fully block your Zope server if you don't have enough threads. I mean, you could use sub requests, of course. Okay, if you want to avoid this anything and not have your end user wait 10 minutes and lock up your server anyway, you're going to do it async, and async is even more problematic. And the go-to tool that we have been using a lot with these add-ons, WK HTML to PDF, is sort of abandoned, and there's a new kid on the block. You could write it report lab directly, so yeah, alarm bells, as I said. And why do we still export to PDF? So for quite a few other customers with PDF export on the website, the demand has slowly gone away, because we're always online. We always want the latest information. We've got 3G, 4G, 5G. And it gets very expensive, and it's a lot of maintenance to keep it running. Ask any of the maintainers of those packages. So to begin with the end in mind, the business analysis had a lot of requirements. The left side, Plone already offers all of that. But the questions on the right were something for me like, do I even want to start this project? Can we somewhere deliver this? Can we split between core and background? Can we use the normal CMS hierarchy? Please, can we keep the layouting all out of scope? I'm not a front-ender. Maurits is not a front-ender. And content editors who use fancy HTML codes are not PDF export experts. So I wanted to know this before the project, like a pre-project, like a spike, maybe a big spike. And really important, can we validate this with the internal customer before we start really try to start this project. And then we went a bit like heresy. Okay, how can I avoid any layouting issues? I'll just leave it to Word, and then they can select Comic Sans if they want later on. And I mean, they just want they want the official government document, and we can generate that. We need to have a table of contents because one of the hellish things I didn't mention by speaking is table of contents is an index, is page numbering. If you try to stick any large document and try to make a PDF, you have to know the whole document in advance to be able to do page numbering and reference to pages. So it's prototype time. And that's where Maurits would come in, but as you might know, Maurits is very fond of making notes of as many Plone talks as he can during the day. So I said, okay, go make a note in the other room. I'll stand in for you for the technical part. And we started prototyping. And Maurits did a lot of nice work, and it went all very well until I got to my tasks, limiting tiny MCE options to avoid all too difficult things with the prototype. But then we had to come up with a kind of continuous content hierarchy, because the website, okay, you could reuse the default folder and page default Plone content types, but as I'm also, of course, a bit of a developer, and overriding and changing the default behaviors, the default content types in Plone is just a gut feeling, don't do it. If you want to have a specialized app in your Plone site, and you never know who might gonna need the default Plone content types later on, so we went for making up some content types to build this document export in, to have this document export only work on a hierarchy of our specialized content types. So we did a first attempt. One of the other requirements was that the whole top navigation structure should be locked, and only the leaf nodes of the document should be able to be authored by special subcommittees. So I came up with structure, folder, and chapter. So the three hard problems of computer science: cache invalidation, numbering, and naming things. And this was naming things, because we were never satisfied with the name as well. And we built this. We made chapters. We made we put a core background switch behavior on both of them. And and Maurits did all his fun things from this, which actually all worked, and which I'm going to talk a bit about later. But it didn't really work. And what I didn't tell is we didn't tell our internal customer that we made a prototype, because there was no project yet. There was only a business analysis. So we had a kind of pre-meeting where we were introduced, and we were going to talk a bit about the business analysis. And that was quite useful, because the business analysis was published like 5 months before. So is it still valid? Is there new information? And which parts are absolutely necessary in a business analysis? Because that was something else we found out. Our internal customers at this government agency were used to writing a lot of plans, but they got a bit confused about what a business analysis is. They've been doing that for a few years. So we talked about a business analysis. Yeah, it would be cool if we could have all these features and functionalities, and it would help us a lot. And then we showed our initial prototype, unannounced. And as I told you, so let's do this first. Document export, yay! That was one of the big things in the business analysis. But in our first prototype, to be able to generate this Word document, we have to have some structured look of the website, and that shines through in the also the HTML, the normal Plone views, what you see. And that was a big boo. That was not what. So we kind of misunderstood the business analysis a bit as well, because the business analysis, the analyst very quickly jumped also into technical details and technical and functional requirements. But in the first few pages was, look, we have been generating these PDF documents for years, and we want to have a nice, pleasing website also for the public, for citizens to look at it. We want to publish content and not write PDF documents. And so they surprised me a bit, because they had made a kind of mock-up in the testing environment of the normal website. Said, look, this is what we want. Okay, and we had, okay, we can generate Word. This is what we have. Okay. So we went back to the drawing board. And to be fair, to be honest, I have read through some emails this week, and I can't really remember what we did in those 3 or 4 weeks to come up with a different solution for. I mean, exporting the Word wasn't that difficult. Well, it will be a lot of work, but the problem is really mapping your content so that you can have a nice Word document with a table of contents and with multiple headings, indenting 1.1, 1.1.1, 1.1.2, 1.2.2.3, and have that as a separate document. So one of the big developer insights was less is more. We should not have 2 or 3 or 4 content types. We should just have one content type section, and that will be a kind of node structure which will build up the whole document. And you might use a few features not or fill in not a few fields on this section page content type. And we were surprised it did work. And you can have text between headings and lower subsection headings. And that was also something we got into trouble with these multiple content types, with multiple behaviors, multiple fields, exceptions for when should you not. So when we switched to this section and we tried it, it did work. And one of the main objections also for multiple content types is if you have 2 or 3 content types to build up this hierarchy, and you want to move a part of the text to another sub one, and it's a different content type, you have to copy-paste everything. And if everything is a section, it's like Plone, it's contained. You can just drag and drop it through the whole site. So we made a second prototype. On the left, you see the main view is a kind of on actually every section we have a full content view which lists its own main text and then the sections of its child. And we have added some alternative views where we could build this nice menu on the right, which one of the content editors provided us as a mock-up. So here we have, for example, on the right you see the main section text, also with images, other support, but then the lower sections you can switch the view and say, look, all the child ones, render them as a menu, or as a even more pleasing menu. And you'll recognize this one from a few slides back. So, yeah, it took a lot of technical searching, thinking, mailing, getting really frustrated because sometimes we would mail or we would talk for 10 minutes. You would have to stop mid-sentence because you forgot the whole argument you were making about a certain setup because suddenly something flew in like, oh no, that can't work because we've got that other requirement and this thingy. So I don't know how we got to this, but we got to this and it proves it kind of works. So, short demo. Let's see if I can. Switch. I can't switch. I'll do the demo at the end then when I'll cancel the application. So we're building of course, on the shoulder of giants. There's Python docx, which is the Python library, which is a bit finicky to get to work with, but fortunately Maurits did all that stuff for me. But that allows you to generate a Word document on the fly. And what that actually does is encode. So we have a few utility functions. We can first find content in order in the whole site, and then we have a few other helper functions to add text, to add a heading, to add a table of contents, which I'll come to. And we have a huge, nice class-rich text parser, which uses beautiful soup to render the main text and do all kinds of internal things there, like recognizing bold, recognizing links, and recognizing other markup that content editors insert through TinyMCE. And this is the whole view to generate a Word document. And I've just marked the few helper functions on the previous page. And that's all it does. We also have a few interesting extra problems, like the Python docx offers you, so you can just call like add heading or add text. Those are also lower primitive functions in Python docx that just add to the flow of the Word document where you write to. Some of those things are not in there, and there are in Python docx on GitHub. There are quite a few issues that say, "Oh, I want to use this nice fancy thing in Word," and then you can drop to a lower level function, and you can write and look up the docx spec, which I didn't do. I just looked up other issues other people had, because I'm normally not that unique that I will have unique problems. So somebody else will also have had my problem. And there was a nice example: how do you add the special symbols for a table of contents. And this just at the beginning of the document will insert a table of contents, and I will show you later. With Word, you just say, okay, render, update the fields, and Plone, Word will do all the page numbering, it will generate a table of contents, and it will generate everything else. And what was the nice thing about this? So this was a kind of pre-project. And I really had that previous experience like, okay, we're not going to promise that at the end of the project we'll be able to export something. I want to start with the end in mind. I want to see if this is possible at all. And once we have this running in a prototype, then all the other things we are going to add next year in the real project can be validated. Because that was what happened with the environmental report website. Editors asked features which broke the export later on, we found out. We should have skipped those parts if we knew that would have caused us a lot of problems. So next steps, we should have had a second pre-meeting, but it got postponed to next week. So I'm first telling you stuff that some people at the agency will hear next week. So if everybody just can keep quiet, then that will be the next week. Yes, I'm joking. I mean, I mean, as I said, I find this really interesting because this kind of system, if you probably will have, if you see that, you will have use cases as well. We've got some risks. Are we going to start a real project? And we can run into some serious trouble if people are going to ask really advanced things you can do in Word, for which I cannot find the equivalent XML incantations. And we've got some, I'll show you, image placement is still, it's still a prototype. We've got the basic stuff running. We know we can solve it in detail. The question will be, will it be time budgety? Can we manage that? And what I said, like, we got a few options. We've got now what we say is, okay, the context is a section, and you can switch the view on this context and say, what do we do with the subsections in this part of the document? Are we going to show it as a menu, or are we going to show it as full text, or are we going to show it as a bigger menu or something else we'll come up with? But what if we would store on a context the view it will be in its parent and turn everything around? And other nice things. But at the end, the main concern is keep it simple and stupid, and we'll have to make sure that that the editors who will have to create this huge document will be able to set it up and have both a nice website and have a document, and will be able to do the things that they normally want to do with it. And we really have to have two tracks: a nice public website and a document. Kim, how much time do we have left? 10 minutes. Oh, we're going to do a lot of demoing. That's a surprise for later. Let's see if I can first. There it is. So here's a local running version of this website. I won't take any credit for the styling because the internal department where we're working for, one of the guys there is really good at CSS, which I'm not, and he has done all the theming on top of Plone 5.2, which is really nice. So this is the main plan here with the main chapters, and I'm going to dive into one of the 11 basins. So these are the 11 small river water basins for whole of Flanders, and I'm going to look at the Voorbeeldbekken, which is this one. And so this is the main section here. I can edit it, and I mean, it's not really fancy Plone stuff. It's a page plus with a lead image, and the only thing added so far is this small switch to say this is core and this is a background section. And that is where and we've already got a problem here that if somebody switches this halfway, we're not already saying then you should switch everything lower level also to core or background or back. So we've got all nice edge cases which we know are in there at the moment. But this is the contents. So we've got an example basin. Here you see two subsections. This is an image which is used in the text. I mean, it's a folder-rich page. We just ignore all the other content types. Only the section is the big coat hanger on which you build the whole structure. And if you switch to view, so this is the view where we have the main text and two items, and we can just say, oh, let's switch to not do this, but show everything as a big text block. Then it will show it like this. Or we say we want to have a bit of a more bigger long menu, and then we'll reuse the lead image on the section and show it as a submenu. And then I can dive in there, and here's our new subsection, which is also, again, as a view for the short menu. We could switch it to the long menu. And then you can say, oh, I'll just jump in there. If you want to quick edit, just jump to the edit directly. And that's all it is, he said. So we've done 2 prototypes, help with the theming setup a bit. In total, this whole prototyping has cost us between 60 and 70, 75 hours. So that's really, we were able to keep it really small, or we were just very lucky. And of course, we have a bit of experience. Maurits and I have total of 25 years of Plone experience. Internal VMM, Flanders Environment AG has been using Plone for more than 10 or 12 years. So of course we have a bit of experience, but we were still surprised that we could pull this off in such a short time. And then the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Yes, it still works. So there we got the plan. This is the table of contents, which I inserted with a special low-level XML thingy. Update, update, update. No, not a picture. Right-click to update, update field. And there's a whole menu. Here's our example backend. I noticed some of the submenus is missing, so this looks all very ugly, but this really is a Word header, which is like this, and which you can, of course, later on say, okay, this heading here, don't do it like this, but change the style later and say, we want to change the numbering to a multi-level numbering with numbers like this. Okay, okay, and then we'll all switch to this in the document as well. So it's really, I mean, it's government official documents proof. It means if it's Word and if it's structurally labeled like this in a document, they can do whatever they want with the document later on. But we'll have a single source of truth for the content. We've got of course, some image layout issues. This full works sort of. When you go left or right, we'll have to figure out how to do that in the codes, if the Python docx supports it or not. We've got summarizations here, we've got bullet lists, we've got bold, italics, we've got basic tables working, which also was a kind of pull-off. We also have internal links working, which is a kind of also internal structure that you can reference to some other part in the document. So Maurits also pulled that off amazingly in those 70 hours. So that's it. Time left. Let's see if I can. Yeah. So this is the play. So this on the left. This is something also I found just in one of the issues is how you're going to low level insert the table contents at the beginning of the document. So just have to do some magical incantation and then offload it to Word. Any questions so far on this? Andres.
Yeah, we've been building prototypes for similar solutions for other customers.
Yeah.
We found out that usability is always a problem. Usability regarding when you reorganize content, for example, when you want to move a chapter from, let's say, 1.3 to section 2. So we found out that basically the standard Plone user interface is just too complex for doing this kind of reorganization. So in this case, we basically provide something like kind of a simplified tree. You can basically collapse and decollapse the nodes and then move nodes around without instead of using a standard Plone copy paste and so on directly. And the most important problem was always the way how Plone treats its editors in a humiliating and disgraceful way. In particular, because the tiny MCA has tons of bugs regarding usability. For example, it uses or styles are changed. Particularly, when you have to deal with lots of tables with complex table layouts like call spans and row spans, and basically we switched to a different editor because the standard Plone TinyMSA is actually not suitable or fixable for, let's say, these kind of complex reports or documents.
I'm fully aware of those problems, so that's why this is a kind of prototype, and we're going to look, internal customer, you asked us, and you've been asking this for 10 years, and they tried to do something similar with uploading documents like already 8 years ago. We've got Plone 5.2 now with the latest version of TinyMCA. I've locked it down to only one header, and we're going to lock down the other stuff as well. We might have to remove this part as well, and we'll see how far we get. As long as I mean, they asked it, and they want these two conflicting requirements. And look, we can do this, and we'll see next year. And the reason I'm standing here is just like I thought it couldn't be done. I mean, I had the same reservations, the same experience. It was like, no, you can't do this. And we've proven now that in less than 2 weeks, we have a working prototype, and now it's up to the customer to decide if they're going to launch more requirements on top of us or not. Very quickly, Plone 5.2. This is Plone 5.2. This is Python 3, and it's all running very nicely. We had to do a few things, and one of the things is 2 years ago I did a presentation on POS-Plugin's LDAP, because I mean this is a government customer, so we have Active Directory for like 10 plus Plone sites. That works now. A lot of work done by Robert Niederreiter from Blue Dynamics to merge patches from things that ASCO did to support POS-Plugin's LDAP. And it's a really nice upgrade if you're still using products Plone LDAP or Plone Up LDAP or LDAP multi-plugins, which is inside there, an LDAP user folder and group user folder, and there's many, many, many things there in there. So,
do we have one more question?
Hello.
Hi.
At some point of the analysis, did you consider using a collective document generator, or did you have any issues with it, or something like this?
Sorry, did I use what? Collective?
Collective document generator.
No, we didn't consider that. So what we looked at so far, I don't know about that add-on, what it does. What does it offer? Enlighten us, please.
Basically, PDF, ODT, DocX, document office generation.
Okay, yeah, well, I did look at some other, while we were scanning for generating Word document, we found some other projects that go to this really broad intermediary XML thing, and then from that project on, you could generate all kinds of things, PDF, Open Document, Word, etc. And I think Andreas has also a lot of experience in that by using another XML-based intermediate format. The slight problem with this pre-project is that we know how big the final project will be, and that will be budgetary very small. So if you're going to do something like that, we will have to have much more budget. So that's why we started this prototype with, okay, can we just generate directly from Plone to DocX with nothing else, not any other moving parts in between. But you're right. So such things also exist. You could also use LibreOffice at the background. You could run it in Windows and call COM on Word directly. There are a legion of options. This is a very simple one. We found out that works.
All right, we're going to have to stop now, but thank you, Fred, very much.
You're welcome. Can I have 10 seconds? So this stuff is working, and something that Maurits did was create me a very small package that will do the upgrade from Plone, from products Plone LDAP or Plone Up LDAP to POS-Plugin's LDAP automatically. So if you have 10 or 12 large sites with this old LDAP stuff, and I've asked, talked with Maurits, we're going to publish this somewhere this week or next week as an example, if you want to move from Plone Up LDAP to POS-Plugin's LDAP.
I'm sure Fred will talk about it in the lightning talks.
Thank you. That's a good one. I'll repeat my 2 slides. I don't have to create slides for a lightning talk. Thank you.